The robbers smeared pig grease all over the railroad tracks, preparing to hijack the train loaded with gold. By analyzing the vibration frequency of the rails, Jimmy, the leader of the gang, could easily determine the distance of the approaching train. After setting up the trap, they hid in the nearby bushes, waiting patiently for the train's arrival. 10 minutes later, the train arrived on schedule. Due to the uphill slope and the effect of the pig grease, the wheels began to spin frantically in place, which was exactly what the robbers had hoped for. They seized the opportunity to rush onto the train and took out the driver in the cab. However, the soldiers in the carriages were still unaware of what was happening outside until the robbers threw a hornet's nest into the carriage. By then, it was too late. The soldiers who tried to fight back were shot dead by the robbers' gunmen. The robbers then disconnected the carriages from the locomotive, planning to use the momentum of the downhill slope to transport the gold to their destination. At this point, the soldiers, unable to bear the stinging of the bees, jumped off the carriages one by one. However, the robbers couldn't celebrate too soon because the police at the terminal station, noticing the train's delay, had dispatched a large team to investigate. To make matters worse, the brakes on the carriages malfunctioned. If they couldn't stop in time, the gold would be transported back to the starting station, and all their efforts would be in vain. Fortunately, Jimmy had prepared for this. An hour earlier, after the train passed the mountainside, he had sent another group of robbers to create a speed bump there. They tied countless ropes to the trees on both sides of the tracks, hoping to stop the speeding train. However, they didn't anticipate that the slope of this section was too steep, and the speed of the carriages had already reached 300 miles per hour. The ropes crossing the tracks seemed to have no effect on slowing down the train, and the trees on both sides were uprooted by the enormous force. Luckily, they had tied enough ropes, and after passing through a full kilometer of speed bumps, the carriages finally came to a halt. The entire plan was only half complete. Everyone hurried to move the gold out of the carriages. Jimmy deliberately let the bulky horse-drawn carriage take a separate route, hoping to use the deep wheel prints to mislead the police chasing them, while he took another route with the gold. However, he underestimated the intelligence of the sheriff, who chose not to follow the horse-drawn carriage route, and instead chased after Jimmy at full speed. Soon, the sheriff caught up with Jimmy, who was alone. Jimmy had no choice but to raise his hands and surrender. However, what the sheriff didn't expect was that this was the robbers' ultimate ploy.